and I think we need to look very strongly at developing a greener economy and investing in other forms of renewable energy as quickly as possible. We continue to make the same mistake over and over and over again, and Peter Lougheed nailed it. We have to diversify our economy. And that was 35 years ago he said that, and frankly, we haven't gone very far down the road to diversify that economy. So that is a continuing concern for me, and I wish we would. And perhaps these tightening of economic times will encourage us to be more creative and to look toward investing in some of the renewable energy resources that we can produce here. So if I'm looking at these tougher economic times and that whole debate about run a deficit, don't run a deficit, cut, don't cut, and what has come back to me from the people that have contacted me is we need to be careful to maintain an investment in certain things. And what's the criteria on that? I think the criteria is if we don't invest in this now and continue to invest in this given entity, will we be in better or worse shape when we come out of this economic recession? And I think the areas that we need to continue to invest in include infrastructure, and for two reasons. One, because it is a stimulus for the economy. It is jobs for our citizens. But also, we need that infrastructure when we come out of this. And if we don't continue to invest in it and to have bridges and public transportation and municipal buildings ready, we will truly be in a challenging place when the economy starts to pick up on us, and we, the government, have not been able to provide that infrastructure that we need to really move forward. So infrastructure is one. Health, clearly. For those of us that have dealt with these issues recently, if you don't have health, you have nothing. All the money in the world, it means nothing to you if you are ill or dying. It means nothing. So we really have a pressure upon us to provide our citizens with the best possible health care. Beyond that, I think we need to have the discussion with our citizens and encourage them to have the discussion about what kind of health care, how far. What is the continuum of health care that they expect us to provide? Because there's trade-offs involved in that. But you can't expect citizens to be happy with the result that's handed to them if they didn't get to be involved in the discussion. And I think we need to have the discussion. And when I watch some of the public discussions they have in Holland, I am amazed. I mean, they actually had a public discussion that went on for several years on euthanasia and came to a decision on it. That's their societal expectation. That's what they've set down as a policy, and they all bought into it. Pretty brave. I wish we could get closer to that, because I think in some ways we set ourselves up in that we don't allow the citizens to have that discussion about exactly how much health care is enough. I would also challenge the Minister of Health, as I have before, rather than saying, this is how much money we're going to spend on health care, make everybody healthy for that amount of money, to say, how healthy do we want people to be? What are the benchmarks that we want to hit? What kind of delivery of programs are acceptable to us, and then fund to that. But that also includes that discussion with the citizens. That's a part of that. I think we have to continue to invest in education and in children, no question. And I would also argue that investment in the arts, okay, it's near and dear to my heart, so sue me. But I think an investment in the arts and culture continues to have a considerable payback, and we know it's between $3 and $7 for every dollar invested. I think there's also a role of government to provide what no corporation will provide, because there is not a profit, or unless there's a profit that comes out of it. And that's areas like protection of vulnerable people, housing, particularly around mental illness services and programming, seniors, and AISH. And I just one of the people that contacted me was really concerned because her son is on AISH, and she's experiencing a situation where AISH will subsidize this fellow for a bus pass, but they won't subsidize him for a DATS pass. Well, lots of people on AISH require a DATS pass. So this is an interesting discrimination, and I would ask the government to look to this, and I'll also provide additional documentation to the relevant minister. But honestly, that's one of the areas that needs to be looked at. And thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, Standing Order 29-2A is available. The Honourable Member for Edmonton-Riverview.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was just wanting to learn more about what the views of the member from Edmonton-Centre are on the throne speech.
Thank you very much. One of the other areas that I have had a significant amount of correspondence on, and if I have, everybody has, is around seniors' unhappiness with the plans for changes in pharmaceuticals and in long-term care and assisted living. And I've had a lot of correspondence and people phone me on it. There's a real sense there that middle income, particularly seniors on fixed middle income, are being dinged in a way that they did not expect. They feel it's unfair, and it's breaking of that contract with them of what they expected to be available to them when they retired. And let's face it, I mean, the government has always looked after truly vulnerable, disadvantaged, bottom of the heap, absolutely no or little income seniors. They always have. And this is now adding to it a small number of other seniors that are equally low income. But you know, my mother has a teacher's pension, and she would get covered and be paying full freight on this one for a fairly small teacher's pension, and she's some 20 years into it. So this is a real concern from seniors. I think the other issue that is of real interest and concern here is the relationship with the municipalities. And I am bringing forward Bill 204 later in the session, which I hope will provoke a discussion. Well, I know it'll provoke something, but I hope it'll provoke a discussion about how we fund municipalities, because I'm asking the government to consider allocating a portion of income and corporate tax directly to the municipalities for them to use in their operating funding, because they're being expected to carry a lot of the load, and they do not have access to the same amount of funding in order to do that. I'd also like to see the status of Edmonton as the capital city upheld. And I know when a lot of my colleagues from the government side were elected in Edmonton, somehow Edmonton was to be highlighted again, and I would argue that that's happening less and less. Increasingly, press conferences and big announcements happen just about anywhere but Edmonton. And this is the capital city. The legislative building is here in the fabulous constituency of Edmonton-Centre. And I think that the respect that is due this institution and this building should be upheld. And I think I've had a lot of feedback on that from people, as well as the legislature grounds renewal themselves, which is a project that has now, I think, been tried 12 times, 3 times to my knowledge. And we have an opportunity here to create a real jewel of a building and of a legislature grounds, and I hope that the members will support the plan when it comes forward. It could be quite fabulous, and I hope it will be, but thus far all other attempts have failed because it didn't have the support of the very members that are elected to sit in this House. So those are some of the issues that I wanted to raise in addition, and thank you for the question, member for Edmonton-Riverview. The final issue is around support and stabilization for the not-for-profit associations that we depend on so much to deliver many of the programs that government, in fact, is legislated to provide. And at this point, they need some stabilization. They need contracts to be written with cost of living increases in them and some sort of wage parity for their staff. So thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.